On Q&A, we're determined to try and get things right, and some fact-checking we've done has thrown into question statements made in our recent interview with Associate Justice Minister Nicole McKee. The reason this is important is it relates directly to the legal loophole used by the Christchurch terrorist to build the weapons that were used in his attack. Now, you might remember before she was an MP, Nicole McKee was appointed by former Police Minister Paula Bennett to give independent advice on a select committee's report into illegal gun ownership in New Zealand. One of the things that was raised in that report was a loophole that meant anyone with the most basic gun licence could buy a semi-automatic firearm and separately buy a high-capacity magazine and instantly transform the gun into one that was supposed to be highly restricted.
When you talk about the 2017 inquiry, that was an inquiry into the illegal possession of firearms by criminals, and that particular loophole itself was something that we wanted to support and said needed to be tidied up.
When Q&A asked her about it, Nicole McKee was emphatic that she used that opportunity, directly advising the minister to try and close the loophole.
So you say that when you lobbied the minister at the time, that you argued to close that loophole?
Definitely.
But under the Official Information Act, Q&A has obtained a copy of the written advice submitted by Nicole McKee and another independent advisor. And not once in the 12-page, 4,000-word submission does it mention the loophole, even though it had been described by the Select Committee report as, quote, grounds for concern. Nicole McKee and her colleague told the minister to reject the committee's recommendation to look at reclassifying and potentially restricting semi-automatic firearms. In our interview, now Minister Nicole McKee told us it's because she preferred a different option for closing the loophole. She wanted to restrict access to high-capacity magazines.
It's really disappointing, Jack, that we didn't have the opportunity to be able to seal that loophole up between 2017 and 2019. Right? Well, that's not me, though, Jack. I wasn't a minister at the time.
You advised the minister, though,
and
right?
I advised the minister that she should absolutely make sure that large capacity magazines are put on a licence, on an endorsed licence.
But again, despite what Nicole McKee said to us, in her official advice to the minister, nowhere did she recommend restrictions on high-capacity magazines. Now, we also checked the original Select Committee submission made by Nicole McKee. There was nothing about the loophole, nothing about restricting high-capacity magazine sales. The only line we could find in the official documents from that 2017 inquiry that could maybe be interpreted as suggesting limits on magazines came in the government response. Remember, after hearing Nicole McKee's advice, the government rejected the recommendation to look at a new category of restricted semi-automatics and said this: "We are aware that experts in the firearms community have suggested alternative approaches. The government remains open to hearing such suggestions." It's not clear from that, though, what the alternative approaches relate to, whether it's firearms, classification, licensing, magazines or anything else, or who suggested them. What is clear from the official documents is, despite insisting in our interview that she advised the minister to close the March 15th loophole by restricting access to high-capacity magazines, across the 16 pages that made up her submission and official independent advice, neither the legal loophole or restrictions on high-capacity magazines are mentioned. So we went back to Nicole McKee this week and asked why. In a statement, she pointed us to a different group where she says she's advocated to close the loophole and said this, quote, "I'm certain this issue was raised with then Police Minister Paula Bennett at the time of the inquiry. However, it was deemed to be outside the scope of the inquiry, which was limited to the illegal possession of firearms. I recall raising it at every possible opportunity." But I spoke with Paula Bennett, who, while acknowledging it was 7 years ago, said she doesn't recall the loophole or the magazine issue ever coming up in her conversations with Nicole McKee at the time. In a document assessing the advice with Paula Bennett's handwriting, there's no mention. As for the terms of reference, nowhere in the official paperwork we've obtained did the minister say anything was outside the terms of reference. And while Nicole McKee has consistently claimed the issue was outside the terms, she also insists she raised it. Actually, in the official documents, the advisors even offer up some, quote, additional recommendations to the government, which appear well outside the terms of reference and again don't mention the loophole or high-capacity magazines. So, in summary, this is what we know. 7 years ago, an inquiry and subsequent Select Committee report specifically identified the loophole used by the Christchurch terrorist to build his weapons. When the report was released, Nicole McKee had a unique opportunity to directly, personally advise the minister in charge. She advised the minister to reject the committee's recommendation. And despite what she said in our interview and said again this week, in the official documents, there is no evidence she advised the minister to close the loophole or restrict high-capacity magazines. There's nothing in her official advice, nothing in her original submission, and the minister who appointed her doesn't recall the subject ever being brought up in conversation. It doesn't appear in the minister's notes or explicitly in the government's response. Why does this matter? Well, it matters because less than 2 years later, Brenton Tarrant used that loophole to build his weapons and kill 51 people. The second stage of the coronial inquest into March 15th begins this week. Meanwhile, as a minister, Nicole McKee is now heading up the government's gun law reform.